Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and for those of you who don't celebrate anything, I think, festive this time of year or religiously oriented this time of year, happy, slower time of year so you can take a breath and get ready for next year.
Or Festivus.
Or Festivus, that's right. Festivus,
whatever works for you.
Festivus for the rest of us. But yes, indeed. So happy this time of year, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. This is a very special time of year for Julie and I and our family. We always enjoy a little bit of a reprieve from the normal hectic schedules that we have kept ourselves to for the last 3 decades, being of service to all of you guys. And it's nice to see that so many of you are taking time off as well. We can see it in the comments and the happy holiday wishes that we've been getting from all of you, and we really sincerely appreciate it. And what we're going to be doing this week is we're going to be giving you guys a little gift on the podcast, and it is something that Julie spent a tremendous amount of time on writing for all of you. And it's going to be really something designed to help you to be in a sort of almost permanent state of gratitude. But gratitude is the, I think, most powerful antidote to any stress that you're experiencing in life, any anxiety you're experiencing in life, any fear you're experiencing in life. Gratitude has this universal way of really washing yourself free of all those ego-based emotions so you can really be present with your surroundings and with the people that are around you. And that's especially important this time of year, as really at the end of the day, some of you, like Julie and I made this mistake for a long time in our professional lives. We didn't intentionally, and that's the key word, take time off during the holidays. And that meant that when the new year rolled back in, we hadn't really reset ourselves. We hadn't given ourselves an opportunity to take a breath, and we were hard driving and figured we didn't need it. But the accumulation effect of not having taken deliberate downtime, especially this time of year, it does cost you in the first quarter of the following year. And one of the I wish Julie and I would have discovered something like this when we got married 30 years ago when we were building our businesses, because this would have really, I think, helped us to shift our mindset away from being hard drivers just for long enough for us to have a little breath and to enjoy this time of year. And so, Julie, I really appreciated this topic.
Yeah, it was fun writing it, and I think that part of my intention here is to help our listeners do what we try to do intentionally, and that is to build good habits of gratitude. Instead of just saying, hey, it's getting Thanksgiving time or it's getting holiday time of year, let's get into gratitude. Just have the attitude of gratitude for the entire year and to get into some really good habits.
We should tell them, in case you guys hear noise in the background, it's because we're in our cabin in the mountains we're in our cabin in the Smoky Mountains, basically, and it is raining pretty hard outside, and this cabin has a metal roof. So if you guys hear any sort of pitter-patter in the background, it's probably Zoe or our Frenchie, Maxie.
Or squirrels running across the ceiling.
Or squirrels, but it's most likely rain.
Yeah.
So forgive us for the background noise. Hopefully it'll lend to the ambiance of the holiday season.
Yes. Well, so Cicero called gratitude the parent of all virtues. I think that's a good place to start. But the dictionary states that gratitude is the quality or the state of being thankful. Now, in doing a lot of research, I came across many different stories, some of them modern, some of them less so. I actually read something this morning about Keanu Reeves, of all people, who had a lot of tragedy actually in his life. His wife died in a car accident. His dad abandoned him when he was 3. But he is known for being seen just as a regular guy walking around in New York and like just talking to people, buying coffee for people randomly, and just, giving of himself. And has been noticed doing that for his whole life. So that's just a little modern snippet. But I pulled out a story about the famous anthropologist named Margaret Mead. Some of you guys learned about her in school. Margaret Mead was asked by a student once what she considered to be the first sign of civilization in a culture. The student expected Mead to talk about clay pots, tools for hunting, grinding stones, or religious artifacts. But instead, Mead said that the first evidence of civilization was a 15,000-year-old fractured femur found at an archaeological site. Now, a femur is your longest bone in the body, linking your hip to your knee. In societies without the benefits of modern medicine, it takes about 6 weeks of rest for a fractured femur to heal. This particular bone had been broken and had healed. Remember, this was 15,000-year-old fractured femur. Well, Mead then went on to say that in the animal kingdom, if you break your leg, you simply die. It doesn't take long. You can't run from danger. You can't find drink or water. You can't find food, or you can't drink water or hunt. Wounded in this way, you're basically meat for your predators. No creature survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to actually heal. You get eaten first, right? This is a fact. Remember, she's an anthropologist. A broken femur that has healed is evidence that another person has taken time to stay with the fallen, has bound up the wound, has carried the person to safety, and has tended them through recovery. A healed femur indicates that someone has helped a fellow human rather than abandoning them to save their own life. This is evidence of civilized culture. So on that note, this podcast series is designed to help you live a greater life as a result of your gifts of gratitude. The more gratitude you show, the more you will personally feel it. This translates into a more fulfilled life with less stress, angst, and worry. Be overt about showing your thanks. You'll be closer to your own goals and achieve more contentment along the way. So how do we make this practical and tactical? How do you make gratitude a way of life? And of course, instantly reap those benefits. We've got 20 different ideas for you.
So keeping this practical, and Julie wrote down some fantastic ideas, and I don't think I'm going to step on any of her points. One of the things, and you guys can test this now, so you're driving around, some of you are working out, you're exercising, some of you are, like Zoe and Nana were doing yesterday, making holiday cookies for the UPS and FedEx guys, so one of the best ways to understand the power of gratitude is by actually experimenting with it. And if you just start finding something around you, and it could just be something that you see, or someone that's around you, hopefully, or just something that you are grateful for. If you start focusing on that person or that environment or that song, maybe, or the book you're reading, or hey, how about this podcast? You immediately start changing your emotional state. And it's one of the most powerful tools to, this is kind of a modern way of saying it, to hack your mindset. Because most often people will say, well, you have to start meditating, you want to start being present, you want to work on your breathing, you want to, do different things to slow your anxiety down. But the first step is to definitely practice the power of gratitude. And I'll tell you where it's really omnipresent. This is one of the first things we teach people when they're, especially those that are full of anxiety when it comes to doing direct, sales solicitations, being proactive lead generators, is we'll tell them to put their mind in a state of gratitude. Now, how can you possibly be in a state of gratitude when you're about to call a FSBO who might, say something to you that you're not ready to answer, and your ego is going to say a FSBO is going to rip your head off, or just all these types of thoughts, right? Well, here's how you do it. You say, and you write down, I am here to be of service to this person. My job is to help this person. I'm really going to try to use whatever talents and skills and really my desire to be of service to other people. And I'm going to use that, and I'm going to be grateful for the skills and the talent I have, and I'm going to be present with this person when my total focus is going to be on helping them. Now, that is a form of gratitude, but what it does is it triggers something emotionally inside of you that unplugs your ego. So your ego is the thing inside of you. You could call it whatever you want to. You could call it fear. That's going to prevent you from doing the real work of real estate, because your mind is going to fill with all these worst case scenarios. It's going to fill with, what if, he says this, he says that. Right. And that's the reason so many people spend most of their lives getting ready to get started, because their mind is constantly full of what ifs. They never actually, they're playing whack-a-mole emotionally constantly. Did I solve for this? Did I solve for this? Did I solve for this? And really what they're doing is their mind is basically filling their heads with fear and are preventing them from being of service to other people. Whereas if you just put yourself in that mental state, it's almost like, to sound a little woo-woo, when you put your mind in a state of gratitude or being of service to other people, you're sort of boiling at a higher temperature. You're breathing rare air. You're elevating beyond your normal way of being, where it's maybe more rooted in fear and anxiety. Does this make sense, Julie?
Well, it does. And I've had many coaching clients tell me that once they got clear on what you just explained, being of service, getting out of your own way, focusing on the right stuff instead of the speculative what ifs, that all of a sudden the business became easier for them. And that's a common comment that they say.
Pleasurable, even.
It's pleasurable. When I stopped making it all about me, when I realized that, when somebody says, no, I'm not interested in buying or selling real estate, well, you know what? Maybe they're just telling you the truth.
Well, but you just said something. Like, how often do people experience, so this is one of the things that Julie and I give you guys as a challenge, right? And we're being a lot I think we've ratcheted it back a few gears this time of year, right?
Yes.
But one of the things that we do is we ask all of you to consider the fact that if you're not putting yourself in a position to hear the word no at least 5 times a day, that you're not actually doing your job. And that's hearing the word no from prospective buyers or sellers, primarily sellers. So yeah, that's right. We're asking you to put yourself in a position where you could be rejected. And if you're not doing that at least 5 times a day, then you're not actually doing the real work of real estate. And if you actually were to take that challenge or use that as a bar that you're going to start setting for yourself in 2022, you're going to be amazed what you're going to accomplish in life. But the fun secondary question to that, and this is something Julie and I have asked a billion times on Zooms and live events, like, how often are you hearing yourself or putting yourself in a position to hear the word no every day? Most people, the answer is 0, because what they're doing is they're insulating themselves from ever feeling anything that might even remotely feel like rejection. But guys, that is where the power is. That is where you're actually doing your job at the highest level. And so then the secondary follow-up question is, so what are you doing now? Where are you spending your time? How are you insulating yourself from ever hearing the word no? And how are those things actually putting yourself in a position to help people and make money? And it's fascinating how quickly people realize that most of what they spend their time on is not only about basically isolating and insulating themselves, but it's also not going to result in them getting paid. So they're actually following the wrong path.
The goal shouldn't be to not hear no.
No.
Right? And I remember you were causing me to remember a day that you and I were all full of ourselves walking into the office because we just took 3 listings in a row. And we're like, oh, look at us when we were bragging to our broker, Rory. And he said, well, that's great, but obviously you're not going on enough appointments. And you and I looked at each other like, huh? And he said, well, you're not hearing no enough. And I think that was one of the times where we started to realize this. But yeah, your goal should not be on a daily basis to just be an all-out conflict avoiding, because if you don't hear enough no's, you're never going to get that yes.
So how you tie all these thoughts together, and Julie's going to go to the first point here in a second, is that if you're putting yourself in a state of gratitude, if you start with a state of gratitude, you've now shifted the frequency of your mindset to a higher level. And then if you remember basically the other things we just talked about, then you're all of a sudden going to be more effective at doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level, because you've essentially insulated yourself from all the ego voice, the chatter in your head that creates fear. So if you start with putting yourself in a state of gratitude, immediately you're operating at a higher plane. And then if you go the step beyond that and you remember that you're here to be of service to other people, and that is, again, hand in glove with the feeling of being in gratitude or showing gratitude towards life in general, then you're going to become incredibly powerful in life, not just when it comes to proactive lead generation, but life in general, because people are going to gravitate towards you because you are now developing that certain it factor, that je ne sais quoi, that you have now, you're on your way of being that person that has that magnetism that everyone wants to have, or essentially everyone wants to have people like that in their lives.
That's right. And then all of a sudden you'll want to be talking with more people all the time because it'll be much more pleasant for you. You'll stop translating the no into rejection, and you'll start understanding that maybe that just means not right now, and the next person can't wait to talk to you.
So this is our way of making something that's a little bit on the woo-woo side of the conversation practical for the sake of you guys helping people and making money. As promised, this podcast is all about practical and tactical. So Julie,
Yes.
let's go on to point number 1. And these are all practical, tactical steps of things that you can do to put yourself in that higher state of consciousness and keep yourself there and have that then become who you are.
That's right. So these are life habits, not just points about gratitude. So point number 1, write 5 thank you notes daily. Now, it's been proven that the simple act of writing thank you cards creates happiness not just for the receiver, but also for the sender. That would be you. Studies have shown long-lasting effects of this act of gratitude. By showing thanks, we become more grateful ourselves. When you write thank you cards, be specific. This is how it makes it really matter. It's not just, throwing a card in the mail, right? So you might say something like, I'm so grateful for the kindness you showed me when I was feeling distraught last week, and then describe what it was they did. You really helped me, and I appreciate you. I'll never forget your support. So make it personal and make it specific. There's several great books about how to write a handwritten card, different ways of writing powerful thank you notes, and I think those are things that everybody should be using.
So to put a slight, maybe more modern spin on that, I do think it's equally as powerful as if you're sending somebody a text, truthfully.
Well, sure.
A gratitude note can take, the best form is definitely taking the form of a handwritten note, especially if it's your hand, not some sort of bot-driven thing that's designed to make it look like, if you're using some sort of fakery to send out what appears to be a handwritten note, don't even do it. You completely miss the purpose. purpose. I mean, you're trying to hack showing gratitude. How lame,
Flaky.
how lame is that? You're
Totally.
spending money to hack showing gratitude so you can show gratitude at a higher level. But the end result is you're missing the damn point.
Exactly.
You're not actually showing gratitude. But if you want to show gratitude, you want to do it digitally, you can certainly, again, this time of year, you are without a doubt having more time on your hands in between wrapping presents and, decorating your Halloween cookies. You have time to then go on and send people personal notes, texts showing gratitude. Just do it. Even if you don't get a response back, don't let your ego fill with, oh, they didn't like me or they didn't receive it or I'm somehow.
Don't make up stories about it.
Don't make it about you. Make it about you just giving something to show appreciation.
But be specific, right? When you say thank you, say what you're being thankful for. It's much more powerful.
And I'll give you another thing you can do. And this is a digital form of the thank you note. But you can, and I'm not going to make it so easy for you guys, but you should if you, for example, find this podcast to be of use and you're getting benefit from it. And this is the number one listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And, we've had something like 20 million downloads. So it's our honor to be your guys' virtual coaches, and maybe someday we'll become your real coach. But here's the thought for you. You can show gratitude towards us by giving us a 5-star review on iTunes. And we've made it simple for you. Just text the number, and just text 5-star to 47372. Text the number 5, then the word star. Just text 5-star to 47372. And when you do, we're going to text you back a link so that you can go and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'd certainly appreciate that. If you just go ahead and do that now, text 5-star to 47372. And again, that's the number 5, then STAR to 47372. And we'll text you back a link, and it makes it super easy for you to leave a 5-star review, not just on iTunes, but also on Stitcher. And there's another review link that we put in there as well. And if you're listening to us on YouTube or watching us on YouTube, do please give us a nice comment and do like the video. We certainly appreciate that. So that's a way, for example, that you can show gratitude towards this podcast, but you can also show gratitude towards other people. And even if they don't respond to you, understand that the point wasn't to get a response. The point was for you to show appreciation and gratitude. And just by thinking about doing it, haven't you noticed you automatically feel a little bit, you're elevating, right? You don't feel if you're in an anxiety prone mode right now, and you just think about giving somebody gratitude or showing gratitude towards somebody else, you notice how you change your state. Again, I don't understand, and Julie and I have never read why that's true, but it is an amazing gift that all of us have, that it's innate into all of us. By showing appreciation and gratitude, it puts us at a higher state, and this is kind of convoluted, but this is really what it is, of receiving from other people. And this is one of Julie's future points, so I'm not going to step on it. But ultimately, that's where this goes. By being a person that shows gratitude and shows appreciation, you actually receive what you give back, and with 3, 5, 10 times X in return for having made the effort to show appreciation. Because so few people take the time to say thank you. So few people take the time to show appreciation. When you become one of the people that is the appreciation giver and the gratitude, essentially contributor, you will get that raining back on you with so much appreciation that it will almost seem like you've hacked life, basically.
Well, especially when you do it habitually and not just, completely randomly. The thing is, you give what you get. You might not get back immediately. So again, get off of that thought. This is about you showing gratitude. And I did do a lot of research and read a whole lot of different things. And, psychiatrists and psychologists who work with people who say, well, I'm stuck in a rut. Or sometimes you guys will say, oh, real estate's such a thankless job. Well, when was the last time you were thankful? Be the leader that you want to feel more of, right? This is a great way, this whole series of points is a great way to change that pattern of being stuck.
Do you know what's interesting as we're going through this, and I'm reading your next point, is that a lot of people don't do this because they themselves don't feel like they're appreciated and they're not getting,
that's right.
People aren't showing gratitude towards
thus
them.
perpetuating the crappy thought pattern.
Right. You guys are stuck in this downward spiral. You're circling the emotional toilet bowl because you're not wanting to be the first person to, you break the mold when you start showing appreciation and gratitude towards other people, and you will get it back. It's reciprocity, really, at the end of the day. That's what it is. And if you are, for example, and there's shocking to me. But after our 60-day U.S. tour, I realized this has really become true. And my example that you guys will understand in a second. In some parts of the country, if you open the door for somebody, they take that as some sort of affront, which is bizarre to me. That happened.
Microaggression thing.
That happened in San Francisco to me when I was opening the door for, women. Sometimes it happened. I stopped doing it, honestly, because I stopped wanting to have dirty looks or people saying under their triple mask something sort of like bizarre to me. But anyway, the point is just by simply opening the door for somebody or letting someone have a parking space that you'd normally have, what you will find is that person has this unmet, this debt to you that's maybe they're not going to return the favor to you and open the door for you, but they're going to then show appreciation or gratitude towards somebody else. So what you've started by being the initiator of the gratitude and being initiator of that emotion that forces people to rise to the next emotional level, in a lot of ways, you've started to basically make life in humanity better.
That's right. The accumulation effect of your showing of gratitude. So point number 2, and I know some of you guys do this. This is also great for kids, but I think we all need to do it. Keep a gratitude journal daily. When researchers ask people to reflect on their past week and write about things that either irritated them or about which they felt grateful, of course, those tasked with writing down positive experiences and observations were more optimistic, felt better about their lives, and actually visited physicians less. People study this stuff, it's a thing. So there's a lot of different, you can go to Amazon and find some beautiful gratitude journals, or you can just go and get a spiral bound notebook and call it your gratitude journal. Don't
Julie,
overcomplicate it.
They're going to ask what happened to
the planner's different than the gratitude journal. But
what happened to the planner?
It'll be first quarter.
Okay, first quarter.
Yes.
Right, so you guys have heard Julie
Maybe
say
I
that.
should add some gratitude pages to it.
You should.
You're making me think about that.
Well, we have a planner that I've seen it's probably 90% done, but there were some things that, Julie's a perfectionist.
Cover redesign.
You guys know that. Julie's a perfectionist. So we're going to relaunch it, and it's going to be a first quarter product. You should definitely add some pages about showing gratitude.
Even if it's weekly. So yes, but meanwhile, start keeping a gratitude journal. There's a lot of different versions of this. There's 5-year journals where you have January 1st for 5 years in a row. So you can actually compare where you are, today versus 5 years from now. Interesting versions. Okay. So point number 3, this is easy. All of you can do it all the time. Say a kind word. Make someone feel good about themselves unexpectedly. You can change somebody's day completely with one simple compliment. It doesn't take anything away from you to make them feel special. And Tim, I was reminded of this one day when I was dropping Zoe off at school back, pre-COVID, when we could actually talk to other parents on the drop-off. And I saw my friend Cindy, who has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 munchkins going to the same school. So she had 4 different classrooms every single day to drop off said munchkins, and was often looking a little bit disheveled and a little bit like, honestly, she was lucky to get them there on time. But I said something to her just in passing. I said, gosh, did you do something different to your hair? You really look pretty today. And about 2 or 3 hours later, she messaged me and she said, you made me feel so good on such a rotten morning. Thank you so much for that random compliment. And I thought, well, that I had forgotten about it after I said it, but it meant something to her. So say a kind word. Yeah.
Well, so the kind word thing is, so why don't people do that? Just hover there. And it goes back to the previous comment about
tangled up in their own mind.
And but also it's because they're worried that what they're going to say is going to be misconstrued.
Yeah. Especially now when people are wound up about what the secret meaning of things might be and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. But that keeps it's fascinating though. It all starts and stops, because there's no way people can listen to your points right now, Julie, and not completely understand. I'd love for someone to show appreciation and gratitude towards me. I would love for someone to give me a kind word. But then why don't you do it? See, this is where it starts and stops. You have to be the initiator. So if you're the one that wants this in your life, this is what Julie and I are trying to help you guys understand. A lot of you do understand this, but you just forget. We all forget, right? Life gets in the way sometimes. But if you become someone that's showing gratitude, if you become someone that's showing overt praise and giving a kind word, to Julie's third point, you start doing that and stop overthinking it. Stop overanalyzing it. Stop worrying about what people are going to think. Stop thinking that somehow you're going to offend somebody. It does not matter. You can just give compliments to anybody. You can say women actually are, well, frankly, Julie's a master at this. She mentioned Cindy's hair, but it's what you're wearing. It's little pieces of jewelry.
Well, it really comes down to being more present.
Right.
And noticing things about other people and situations more than you are focused on yourself.
But it's tiny little things. If you say tiny little things to people, you change the trajectory. It could, guys, look, it could just be their day. Maybe you just made them feel good for a second. But the reality of it is you could have completely and totally pivoted their lives for something you noticed. You helped them feel special. And you don't just have to act this way towards people you're hoping to get something from. You can do it from random strangers, which actually makes it about 1,000 times more fun because sometimes they're so taken aback because nobody shows appreciation towards them. Nobody shows gratitude towards them. Yeah. And if you say something, if you're the person that's the initiator of that, you become in a lot of ways something magical, haven't you?
I laugh because I was thinking about the coffee shop we go to here in Puerto Rico. And
you mean Murphy?
I'm sorry, in Murphy.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Puerto Rico. And the owner is Puerto Rican. And I remembered that from like 6 months ago when we were last year. And I just said something like, nos vemos on the way out the door, showing that I remembered that. And she was just gushing and like, couldn't believe that I remembered she was Puerto Rican and all this. And I'm like, okay, opened up that can of worms. But it was so random and basic,
Now when we walk in, it's, hello, Julie.
I know. So you see. So make somebody's day better by saying a kind word. Now, point number 4, this is true in general, in presentations, in life. Listen more than you speak. Be fascinated by who is speaking to you instead of looking around, checking your phone, or getting ready to make the conversation circle back to yourself. Make eye contact and listen with intent to remember, not just to respond. I think this is especially true when you're trying to expand your center of influence and you meet somebody new, to actually remember something about them, about their family, about their, their job.
So point number 4 is really powerful, but it's also very hard for a lot of people.
Definitely.
Because they don't know, they think that it's like conversation for a lot of you guys has become what you perceive to be essentially professional level tennis, right? They say something, you say something. They say something, you say something. Yeah, it's constantly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like they're going to tell you about their day. You're then supposed to somehow be obligated to tell about your day. They're going to talk about their dog. You're going to talk about your dog. You're going to try to relate to them by talking about yourself. And so this is a fallacy. The way to basically make it so that someone really feels special when you're listening to them is to listen to them. And here's the important caveats. Never talk about yourself. Don't bring up yourself more than what is necessary, just essentially move the conversation along. And then ask questions about what they just said. In other words, you will not, so you guys are thinking, well, I have to, ask questions even if they're talking about something I'm not interested in. Well, chances are you're not interested in what they're saying because you're too busy thinking about yourself or what you're going to say to make it so that all of a sudden the conversation pivots to talk about yourself. So here's the hack to that, basically. Just listen, be present with what they're saying, and find something in what they're saying that you can ask a follow-up question about or you can show interest in, because in doing so, you again have elevated yourself in their mind, but also elevated yourself internally, spiritually, if you want to even think of it that way.
You are being more present when you do it this way.
You've sidestepped your ego. You've sidestepped your desire to make it all about you. You have now become somebody that you've always dreamt of being. And on the other side of that, you're going to start finding, and this is the practical, tactical side, guys. We are what we are. You'll start finding people want to do business with you because all of a sudden you have elevated yourself. So if you're now having this conversation with, Bob at some holiday party or whatever, and again, your normal pattern is to listen to as long as you possibly can stand it to whatever the other person has to say, and somehow mystically pivot the conversation back to you. Well, what if you don't do that? And what if now you're listening to what Bob has to say? He's talking about something that's mildly interesting to you, but you always make it about Bob. You ask him more questions about maybe what he said, or you could talk about something that maybe you knew about him from, a previous conversation, but you do not talk about Bob. You make it so that he feels really important. You give him the sense of feeling important. You give him what you want. If you want to feel important, if you want to have recognition, if you want to have people, essentially show gratitude towards you, give it away to other people. That's the key.
That's right. And this also has a nice little side benefit, which is you can avoid worrying about things like overdoing mirroring and matching. You don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to screw around with
Well,
mirroring
shit,
and
they don't
matching.
know what you're talking about. NLP.
Yeah,
So
NLP.
NLP is very, I mean, it's sort of a fascinating premise, basically. But what NLP is, just to encapsulate this for those of you who never studied it.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Right. And essentially what happened was basically back in really started in the 50s, but the 50s and really then the 60s. They studied people that were good communicators, they being quote unquote scientists, not really scientists, just aside, and it was all in this, it was definitely in the woo-woo space. It was definitely in the pseudoscience, aka
Not even soft science, pseudoscience.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So just we want to make sure that you guys see this for what it was. But the gist of it was, and this is the interesting part, is they studied people that were good communicators. How did they stand up? How did they position themselves? How did they hold their heads? What did they do with eye contact? How did they, how were they seen as good communicators? What is it that they did? How is it that they did it? And then they observed these people and they studied them. A lot of these people, interestingly enough, were salespeople that they originally studied. And then what they did is they then tried to make it into a pseudoscience and then teach it to other people. Mm-hmm. And so originally it was kind of an interesting study, but then it since got bastardized into some masterful way of manipulating other people. And that's what a lot of it has become. So people study NLP nowadays to try to somehow figure out a way to manipulate other people's behavior. And some of the things that are taught are just hilariously crappy, just horrible. Yeah. The hack basically, or the short, just first of all, you could avoid all that NLP stuff. But it's a lot of stuff that will make all of you feel fake, will make you all feel contrived, and you won't want to do it. And even in an environment where you would otherwise have been successful because you're so busy focusing on how to be NLP-ish, you're not going to feel like yourself. So go back to that previous point. Go back to the state of gratitude. Go back to
listen more than you speak, and actually for real listen, right? So you don't have to fake listen by doing this whole, like we're talking about mirroring and matching, where you try and match their speech pattern exactly.
Stand like they're standing.
Stand like they're standing. Move like they're moving. Use the words that they use. Well, if you're thinking about that, you're not really listening for context.
And people can tell.
People can totally tell. I remember, this is probably 20 years ago, you and I went to some new construction thing, and the new build rep must have used my name 3,000 times.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of every single sentence, to the point where I could not wait to get out of there.
That's so the modern, a lot of that sales training that's got really rooted in the 70s and sort of flourished in the 80s and into the 90s. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people that are listening to us for the first time, maybe they're becoming salespeople or they're real estate agents. Now they realize they have to become better salespeople to be successful. And they're reading all of this stuff, and it's just confusing as hell. And the reason it's confusing as hell is because your intuition and your intellect is telling you that it's just fakery, and that's really what it is.
Yeah, skip it.
And guys, I'm not going to get on my soapbox, I promise you. But those of you who are planning on building your business around your lead generation for 2022, around social networking as the pointy end of your spear, you really got to hit hard reset on that thinking, because it's just going to bring you to a state of, frankly, frustration and probably financial despair. The reality of it is a lot of that stuff, if you think about it, some of you, and this is Julie, I just can't believe it. I'm not going to get on my soapbox. I pledge I won't do it. But those of you who are taking classes, learning how to do TikTok videos, where you're going to dance around with your for sale sign, and somehow that's going to attract people to you, that is the antithesis, the exact opposite of what you should be doing. How are you showing gratitude? By essentially trying to act like you're some sort of, solid gold dancer from the 80s.
Yeah,
there, I just dated myself.
I want to sell my house today. And so I'm going to go to TikTok and choose my realtor. Said no one ever.
And will never
and
say
never will. That doesn't happen, guys.
But why are people doing that?
It's like distraction. It's more fun.
Well, it's because they stumble across that misinformation.
Yeah.
And before they frankly discover us.
Yeah.
And then they start thinking, well, this must be what I'm supposed to do. These people seem to be successful, these TikTokers and whatnot.
Because they had that many views.
Exactly. Views must mean transactions. And then you go to some seminar, or you stumble across somebody saying, Inman is plagued with this. I got all my business, I got 5 deals from TikTok, or what they're not telling you is the people that were following them on TikTok were their centers of influence and past clients who would have probably done business with them anyway, because they were also interacting with them on a regular basis. But they're somehow blaming this ridiculous, or giving credit to this, hold on, I am on my soapbox.
Yeah,
all right, we're going to go back.
Reel it in.
Reel it in, sorry.
Okay.
We're going to go to point number 5.
Point number 5 is something all of you can do, and this is super fun. We have a cookie manufacturing plant going on in our kitchen right now.
It's total mess.
And that is number 5. Bring cookies or flowers to a friend, a colleague, a neighbor. Make dinner for somebody who's recovering from an illness or just had a baby. Random acts of kindness are always appreciated.
I did put a picture of Zoe holding some cookies that she decorated on Instagram.
Yes.
If you guys want to check that picture out, just go to Tim and Julie Harris, on Instagram, and you'll see the pictures. We've been putting actually a lot of holiday pictures from our cabin up here in the Smokies, so you guys can sort of enjoy the holiday season along with us. And please do the same, too, because we'd love to see how you guys are spending your holiday season. You know what? Let's wrap for today.
I believe
and let's pick up this. A lot of people are in a lower, energy cycle this time of year. So let's give them some homework, okay?
Sure.
So the homework is, first of all, if you're, we're posting these notes just as we read them let's see, where are we putting them? We're probably going to put them everywhere. Instagram, we're going to put them on every place where this podcast is going to be repurposed. Now, on some of the podcast syndication sites, they don't let us put all of our notes, but iTunes does, YouTube will. So we're going to put these notes on there. And so the first couple things that Julie, really number one, is your homework. Your homework is to write 5 thank you notes and do that for the rest of this year. It's not that long, guys. It's already, we're already basically through the first week in December. So do it for the next 3 weeks and write 5 thank you notes. And your other homework assignment is, and please do this, do text 5-star, as in the number 5 and STAR, to 47372. Text 5-star to 47372. And do consider leaving us a 5-star review on Stitcher or iTunes or wherever. We'd certainly appreciate it. What that does for us, frankly, is when we read the 5-star reviews, and give us a 5-star, but leave a couple comments too, is that it does make us feel good. It does make us know that we're on the right track. But also what it does, and this is the cool thing about social networking, this is how to use it, right? Versus having it use you, is that then we'll let other people know that are also in the real estate industry that, Bob liked the podcast and you might like it as well. And so they help us to basically elevate our message and take our message to the masses, even on a grander scale than we already are. And we certainly appreciate it. So if you're looking for a way of showing gratitude towards the 2,000 plus podcasts that are there waiting for you on Real Estate Coaching Radio, our podcast, we would certainly appreciate you just texting 5-star to 47372. And again, it's the number 5, then STAR to 47372. And when you do, we'll text you back a link. Click the link in your text, and then you can then leave us a 5-star review on whatever your podcast listening widget might be. In the meantime, guys, happy holidays. We'll talk with you on the show. We're going to be doing shows all the way up probably to the last week in December, don't you think?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, and then we might take 2 weeks off. Our daughter's birthday is on January 1st. I think we'll probably have to do a podcast that week just so we can talk about her birthday and her turning 8. That'll be something a lot of people enjoy. Yes. I often wonder if people listen to us for our Zoe stories more than they listen to what
Well, they should check out you were mentioning her cookie project, cookie/art project. I think every type of cookie glitter, and she was upset that I had only gotten red, white, and green for the Christmas cookies. So she made, when we went to get groceries the other day, I had to find pink icing, and we couldn't find purple, so she actually made purple in the kitchen herself.
Smart girl.
Art project it is.
So happy holidays, everyone. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow, and more on gratitude.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.